character design tool where you can design manually, but the idea really started where I was coding in Cursor and I realized that it'd be really cool, if I could draw something and tell LLM build me this. And I looked around. This was, uh, last year, around like May, and there really wasn't anything. So I built a small canvas for Cursor originally. Now we have apps for VS Code and Linux, Mac, and Windows and Windsurf and anti-gravity, and it's everywhere. But like originally it started within Cursor. And and what I realized is that, I can not only draw something and tell agent build me this, but I can also ask agent to design something on the canvas, and that's where this idea of like vibe designing really came from. And yeah, so let me show you sort of how it looks like. I don't know, like maybe and I wanted to like also tailor it for you guys. So if you feel like you have sort of like deeper questions about like how this whole system works, definitely ask, unmute, and let's have a conversation about it. So it really is, a couple of things. So I can, just start drawing just like in other design tools, and I can, obviously do this. I can, drag one of these corners, and it's a basic design tool. And we have like basic shapes here, and so on and so on and so on. We have icons. So if you want to drop in an icon, you can just put it here. We have this icon picker here. You can choose from these types of icons that are built in: feather, phosphor, lucid, metal, and so on. And I can just like find an icon I want and so on. If you want to create like a button, you can just create a rectangle and call it a button, and then you select these two things and you use flex layout, and now the button is, button. So anyways, and now if I want to make it a component, I can click here, create a component, and now I have a component, and now I can create an instance of that component. And if I change the fill changes everywhere, but I can also override these things, So all of these are pretty standard features. I just wanted to show you that we have like all of it. There's also variables where you can see all of these different variables. So if I, for instance, want to use a variable, I can come here, click this diamond icon and say gold, and now the button is gold. So let me design something. Design a coffee shop website. Use dark bold design. It's in Barcelona. Okay. And I can choose how many agents I want here. So you can choose 1, 2, 3, whatever. Let's do 3. Or actually, let's do 6, and create 3 pages, use 2 agents per page. First, homepage, baristas, location, or menu, food. So now the agent is gonna go and analyze the request, and by the way, I can also change the names like philosophers or artists or inventors or whatever. And oh, 1 second. I think I have to relog in to my Claude code. I just logged into a different laptop.
Like I've been there before for sure.
Yeah.
I was just wrangling with I was trying to not I was trying to see if I could run open Claude code without using Max and still be productive, and then I realized that's not the case.
Yeah.
But let's see if I can find a way going forward. But I was hoping to distribute my funds to other models, but it didn't seem to work in the end.
Yeah.
But
I have already a question, by the way.
Yeah, go ahead.
I saw that you specified the create me 3 pages, but as standard, as default, how many pages it should create Pencil when I ask for like design me a website for a coffee shop? Because I noticed that it draws like and it designs like 2, 3 pages, and then I have to ask it to continue, to start again. Like, why this behavior? Like,
So it can obviously design one page, and it usually does just one page. I'm just like, I just asked to design multiple pages, but really, it doesn't really matter. Is Claude working for you guys right now, by the way? Because it seems it's maybe down for me. I don't know. 1 second.
I know it had
Yeah,
some outages yesterday, didn't it?
there's outage. Yeah. Let me try Codex. And it's a nice thing about Pencil is that you can switch different models. So
Oh yeah, mine's actually it was working about 20 minutes ago, but
yeah, I was just looking at status,
all right, let's go
and
home.
there seems to be an outage. Anyways, good timing. So I just switched to Codex. So I also have my Codex subscription, ChatGPT subscription connected to Pencil. So on the canvas, you can use Claude or Codex, but through MCP, you can use all sorts of different models and agents and so on. And that's all essentially set up here. So you can see that we have support for Gemini, if you want to use Gemini models, or OpenCode or Kiro, Claude Desktop, and so on and so on. And if you have like some super custom agent, you can copy this MCP config and paste it into your own agent, and it will be able to connect to this. So now it's designing these pages, and we can open layers panel, or I can close it. We have also libraries. So in libraries, you can basically open you can create your own, or you can open one of the built-in ones, and then you can have components and variables in a separate file, which is what people usually prefer. They don't want to have like a library of components or design system in every single pen file. What they prefer is to have like one company file that somebody maintains, and that being linked to all of these other files. And I can show you how that works in a bit. So now this is designing, and let's see where we will get.
Is anyone else any other apps that you've seen built like this where you can watch it, build it live? I know that Figma, I've got a friend who's been designing, he's been using the Chrome extension kind of, and it's gone into it's Figma and you can kind of see it moving around, but how does this compare to others currently?
And that's a question for me, or the people,
Well, for
everybody?
you, kind of. I was just trying to see where you see yourself in compared to the other designer tools at the moment. Well,
Yeah,
especially
our philosophy was to make it like really feel like someone's there helping you with things, and also we wanted to show the progress of like what is happening as live as possible. So that was sort of like what was driving a lot of the decisions around the UX, because like one thing is to make it like technically work. The other thing is to make it work in a way that like I can jam with it. And there is obviously still a lot of work that needs to be done in that area, but this is like sort of like where we are starting. Um, so yeah, now we have a website, and I'll just pause here real quick. Like, any questions so far about like how this works, or is this like mostly where you got as well, and now we can like move on to more advanced things?
the buttons, for example, the component here, because you pick the style, they are part of a design system. I can expect that the buttons have an overstate, a disabled state, or it's just something static.
Yeah, so couple of things. If you click this button, design kits and style guides, you can see that there are some design system components, and I'll talk about that in a bit. But there is also a bunch of different styles. It seems to me that it picked one of these styles on the top. the AI will pick the one that's closest to the request. So if you say like a terminal style something, it's probably gonna look more like these like industrial technical dashboards. If you say like Swiss design, it's gonna pick one of these like more Swiss design styles and so on. And we're actually expanding. We're now in a completely revamping this. It's gonna be way more powerful, and there's gonna be like hundreds of different styles. And we are also making it in a way that you will be able to share these styles with others in the community, but also within your company. So if you create like a style guide, you will be able to set it up that all your colleagues have immediately access to it throughout the chat, you know. So, and then like, yeah.
Sorry, just there's a question from Julia.
Oh, hi. Just a quick one. Is it handling the breakpoints and mobile views straight out of the box, or do you have to do something different to make sure it's responsive and dealing with those, you know,
Yeah,
issues?
usually what people do is I'll show you real quick. So maybe two agents, you know, create a mobile version of the. And now this is really cool, by the way. I wanted to show something. So you can see one object selected, you know, which is this selection. So I can say create a mobile version of the selected frame, and it's gonna look at it and it's gonna create a mobile version of that. So at that point you can see a potential mobile version, you know, and reshuffle it the way you want. It's gonna do some opinionated approach. And then when you convert that into code, into whatever is your code base, because that's like another topic that we should touch on, it's gonna do a few things. It's gonna look at it, and you can basically select these two things and say, do responsiveness based on these two frames, you know, and now it's gonna have this template of these two frames, and it's gonna follow it, you know.
And then Colin.
Hey, I really loved seeing how it just, you know, you can see where it actually is working right now and how the modes, its thinking tries. I'm wondering, do you see the human in the loop validation at the end? So do I have to wait for it to do its thing? Or if it goes wrong and I can sort of see, oh, okay, that's the wrong approach, can I intervene a bit earlier?
Yeah, you can honestly you can intervene whenever you want. The
Mhm.
only challenge is that sometimes the agent will go back and be convinced that it wants it actually differently, you know, and will
Right.
change it back if it's still working, you know. But you can 100% change it, you know. Like one of the tweaks that we're actually working on right now is
Mhm.
that it will take into account live changes, you know, and they'll be injected into the session that's running.
Right.
And at that point, like if this agent is still working and I change this from, I don't know, coffee to coffee or whatever, and because now the agent took a screenshot of this, it'll be like, wait, I didn't do that, you know, and like it will start like
Mhm.
potentially tweaking it back, or it will be just like, oh, actually makes sense, you know. So like that's at the agent's discretion, you know, at this point. But like what I want to make sure is that we start injecting these, you know, live tweaks back to the context, even when it's working. But you know, like technically speaking, like nothing is gonna break. The only thing that like can happen only is like the agent will change it back, you know. So you can
Right.
totally work with things. One of the things that we have here is the generating effect. You can just turn it off. It's this like blue thing that's, you know, on top of things, for effect, you know. But like, um, you can just turn it off, and at that point you can just see the design altogether. So now you have this version, you know, and Julia, so if you're like, actually, this should look slightly differently, or these buttons should be uh, horizontal, not vertical, and they should actually clip in here, and so on. You just like do these tweaks, you know, like that's what people really enjoy about Pencil, is that it's not just like a generator and like this is it, you know, and now I have to live with it. Uh, Usually, good design is like human touch away, right? So like 100% go in and finish those like 10, 20%, you know, that it has done, or like tell it like, hey, I actually want this like completely differently and so on. So for instance, like in this case, I'm like, I want to explore like 3 other variations, of this page. And I would be like, okay, or this one. Create 3 variations of the selected page: Brutalist style, Swiss style, and terminal style, or whatever, And that's also what's really nice about Pencil, is that if you're just purely vibe coding, you're usually in vibe coding tools where you're like in one flow, very linear, But because here you have the canvas, you can like really lay things out next to each other and see and compare and like really build an opinion on what you actually want to build. So let me just move these frames because I think they like overlaid each other. So just made a copy, yeah. And now it's gonna start restyling that. So yeah, you can, by the way, also turn light mode. Some people prefer designing in light mode because they can see the contrast better. And we have also this button which hides the UI if you just want to see the agents working without any distractions. And maybe, or you have maybe like less space on the screen and so on. Yeah, so now that it's gonna start, changing those styles. So why don't we come back to that in a second, and I'm gonna show you how things actually work within Cursor, because it's also really interesting. So we eventually get to the point where we're like, we like the design, like how do we get it into code, okay? So you can do 2 things. You can ask Pencil to generate code for you, and we'll do that. What do you probably want to do for that? Actually, one last note in the previous screen. What you probably need to do for that is click this set workspace folder to the folder where you want the code to be generated. Ideally, you will have the pen file, which is technically just a JSON file. It's a text file with a structure of this design, in the same folder where you have the code base, okay? And and then we'll know where to generate the code. If you're in Cursor, this comes by default, or like any other IDE. You don't have to select the workspace folder. So let me show you how that works. So first of all, like go into extensions and just search for Pencil. So once you find it in the extension marketplace, it's right here, and it's this one. So once you install it, you can essentially open any pen file in here in this custom editor within Cursor. And maybe you're paying for Cursor subscription already because you like Cursor, or maybe you're paying for Copilot or anti-gravity or whatever. This will use the agent of the IDE, So here I suddenly have access to like many different models, which is really, really nice, And you can try different things. And for instance, like Composer from Cursor is really, really fast model. And so maybe we can like do this. And I can also like copy and paste in here. And now you can see that this is the menu page that I can talk to. So I can either use the selection or I can copy paste into chat any selection. Okay, now it knows what I'm talking about. Change it to light mode. And yeah, BJ?
Hey Tom, sorry if you're going to come on to this, but this workflow looks really cool for new projects. What if I have an existing badly designed project and
Yeah.
I want to use Pencil to improve?
Yeah. So if you already have an existing project, first of all, you can copy and paste. So there's multiple ways, I don't know where your project is, but like if it's in Figma, copy and paste it from Figma or import it through Fig file. So we have that workflow that exists, So you can just copy and paste anything from Figma and it will show up with flex layout, auto layout, and so on. The second thing is you have a code base. And how do you get like that code base visualized in Pencil? 2 things, So you would just point to the either directory here or the files containing these components. Plus, ideally, you take a screenshot, And if you do these two things together, take a screenshot and use the code, it usually comes out really well, So that's sort of like the best way to approach it. Sorry, let me just close this because I think it's now connecting to a different agent. 1 second.
I've got another question as well from.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, a question here. First of all, it looks really good with the kits. I can remember it was called something more kits, right? And it looks like it's really good at following those templates. But if I want to build a completely new kit out, will it then default to some of the templates behind? That's one question. And if not, how good at it is it to grab and create something really nice based off, let's say I drop it some inspirational screenshots of different kits and I want to build out a new one. How good will that experience be? And will it keep that kit and build on top of that the more I chat with it as well?
Yeah, let me show you that 1 second. So okay, 1 second. So couple things in here. Well, also like one really nice thing about working with an IDE is that you can have like multiple files open here next to each other in tabs. So let's say I want to open this chat CN, okay? So I'll explain a couple of things and it'll start to make sense, okay? And we'll get to the question that you asked. So first of all, in this kit, I have multiple axes of variables set up, accent, base, and mode. And this is chat CN, and here you can see theme, and I can change it to, let's say, orange, and you can see the buttons have changed to orange accent, or green or blue. Now I can change it to dark mode, and now I can change sort of the tone of the colors to be slightly different, So this is like one first thing I wanted to tell you about, like fundamentals, So that's variables, but when you want to like reskin this into a specific style, well, first of all, I would look at, is like any of these actually closer to where you want to get? And then I would paste a screenshot of that and ask, like, ideally Opus 4.6 is like really good at this, to extract the style of these buttons and apply them to this style guide or design system, to these components, and it will start redrawing them. I can show you. So yeah, here, by the way, finally. So here I can, for instance, show you like, I'm gonna select some components here, like this set. And I'm gonna say, let's just use Opus. Restyle the selected components into neo brutalism style. And now it's gonna look at it and it's gonna think about what is neo brutalism style, and then it will try to adapt to that. But obviously, if you have an existing style, drag and drop an image into the chat. Maybe you have a style as a one bitmap. Maybe you have like multiple bitmaps. It will all draw that inspiration from it. Actually, when we were designing some of our styles, we even used like images of flowers, and so on. And I call them like vibe images, and it draws inspiration from it, like a palette or mood and so on. And you can easily design websites just from like images of nature even, which is like really fascinating. It's almost like you walking down the street, seeing something that inspires you and using that to design something else. And that's where AI is like really powerful. It's like these remixes and variations and so on, and just like try to experiment, This was like previously really hard because like you would have to do a lot of these things manually, but now you can just like drop in images and say like, give me 5 variations. You go grab a coffee, come back, and now you have 5 variations of things.
Oh, I got a question from Vaishali. It's just that she didn't have the raise hand ability, so crack on.
Hi, Tom. I had two questions. One was more from from the tool perspective itself. That can I directly start using Pencil extension in VS Code, like for example, Cursor also in this case, without having my .pen file ready? I mean, I just install and then is there a way that I can already start using it there?
Yeah, totally. You can just use blank file, right? The way it works is like, see here on the bottom, create a new pen file. So I can just click that and it creates like a new pen file for me, where I can, was it did it answer the question?
But then I could not see this because I'm using VS Code and I could not get this interface in my VS Code directly when I installed the extension. So I was wondering,
Really?
I was trying to open it in my existing project. So it's not like a new, so in the existing VS Code project, I was trying to
Yeah.
open the extension and I could not see this interface in there. So I was wondering if I need to have something.
Yeah, you can just create a new pen file. So just create new file and just something .pen. And once you do that, it opens that file in this editor as well, and it's empty. Yeah.
There you go. I think it was just more of okay. I opened my
Yeah.
window again. I think it took some.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I know it's like we're trying to fit into like existing system that has some limitations into like how we introduce ourselves, but like you can always click on this pencil button on the bottom, in the status bar, and that will create a new file. You have to save it into your project. Ideally, I would say like work on like saved files or whatever, so yeah.
Yeah. No, it does answer because I think it took almost like some minutes to actually get that interface. So I thought that maybe something was wrong. So now I went back to VS Code. I see this interface now in my file. And then second question I had was more about, actually, I don't know, it's not necessarily about the way this tool is, or rather your thinking behind it, because I was wondering, when you created this as a problem statement, was it more for designers who can code or developers who can design? I mean, what was your focus in that sense? And also, while you were kind of demoing this tool to a lot of designers or maybe other folks as well, did you see like anything peculiar in terms of the design process that has changed? Because in Figma, of course, the designers really love the exploratory aspect of it, like exploring different kinds of directions. And now I can probably do that with one screen. So I guess what I'm trying to understand is that, do designers start with, let's say, give me 3 screens, or do they talk about a problem and then see where AI gets them to? Or is it more like, I'll just stick to one screen? Or I shouldn't even be saying screen because it seems like very solution directed, but let's just say screen. And then I'll focus on one and then like go very much in detail of, okay, now I'll expand and then I'll converge. So I'm just curious on what you've seen as a pattern.
Yeah, I hear you. So I think like AI is now enabling a lot of people to just create, which historically was like really hard. You would have to like study, one direction, become a designer. You would study another direction, you would become an engineer. Very few folks were able to like juggle both, and be like a good engineer and a good designer in like one person, and also like maybe a good PM. So, but with like AI, what's happening is this collapse of a triad, where like, people are now feeling more comfortable being PMs when they were designers before, and also now they're like potentially becoming engineers as well. So originally I was thinking that this would be a tool for engineers to get better taste, for their apps. But what also started to happen is that there's a lot of designers who started graduating into design engineers, and we're looking for a solution that would live closer to the code, And for those folks, is Pencil also like interesting bridge, sort of, because like it's a familiar interface, familiar environment, but it lives in the code base. And finally, there is like a completely new set of like customers that we even haven't like realized would use Pencil. there are people like marketers who are now building whole like websites and campaigns, and instead of them talking to agency, they just roll up the sleeves, install Claude Code, and start like redesigning their websites and maybe doing like banners and social media campaigns with it. Which, a quick demo here is like once you have the style in there, you can just like do some posts for Instagram. You can start like building slide decks in it because like you already have the style in there. And this is what like a lot of people are starting to do now. So we're slightly starting to lean into that as well to enable, just to enable it, so we improved our rules to work better with slides, for instance, and social media graphics and so on, to actually work with that as well, because like now it becomes this like agentic canvas where you can like draw with AI essentially. So here we have the Brutalist components.
I think there's a question from Grant. You can ask it, Grant, if you want. He just can't raise his hand.
Yeah, sure. I'm just interested, like, let's say you have former designs that you want to expand on, or you want to use that system in place, and you started in Figma. Can you bring that directly into Pencil, or would you recommend just like screenshotting or pulling in visuals and then having it rebuild in Pencil?
Yeah, I would say like screenshotting is honestly getting better and better with every model release. I would just use Opus for that, like probably that's probably the best model for converting. So yeah, and I would say like it has gotten like significantly better in the last half a year. So I can only imagine that like in the next 6 months it's gonna just get like amazing.
Sorry, I've got a question. Sorry, Mario. But about the can I create images inside Pen at this point as well? Like,
what do you mean by
image
images?
generation, like calling Nano Banana or Gemini or something to generate.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is all Nano Banana.
Okay, and you can work on variations of an image inside that as well to some extent. You select it and then chat. Okay, interesting.
Yeah, maybe I say like change this to be in tropical Costa Rica, showing coffee shop, I don't know, like in the middle of the day, generate image using AI.
And so you could have one of these agents that you call. Can you give them like certain parameters, skills, so they like you can deploy Leonardo to be your image creator at this point?
You can, I think it's better to just like you can also like create your own like MD file or design skill file, which is essentially what we are doing, behind the scenes. But you should definitely like explore providing your own, and you can give them like a set of rules essentially. Like maybe they're talking about the style of the images that you want to generate, and so on. And they will take it in as a context. You can also say like ignore built-in style guides and only follow my rules. You can also check how we build our own style guides and feel free to copy them, and create your own. See, so now we have like image in Costa Rica,
Mario?
So yeah.
Yeah, I have questions. There is a smart way to handle the connection between pages. I'll try to explain me better. In Figma, we have like prototype mode that allows us to connect pages. So like to better understand the interaction and the connection. But here, what's your advice? Like to handle like let's say the sitemap like in a good way, like.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have connectors yet, although we had them. We just took them out because we wanted to polish them. But eventually we'll be able to connect these pages, if you really want to, For now, honestly, what a lot of people just do is like, well, the agent is actually really smart, in terms of like knowing what to connect and how. So it can infer that like when you click on menu and baristas here, that's probably links, going to these other pages. So if you just like tell the agent to build me this, it's gonna work, out of the box by default. So if you want something like very special, you can obviously ask, but the agents are fairly like understanding, these like nuances about what goes
Yeah.
where and so on.
A question from Radin.
Thanks.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks so much for the demo. I have one sort of comment in one question. So I'm a kind of like I call myself design engineer now, because I'm both a designer and an engineer, and I work across the whole flow. So I design and then I build. One thing that I really am looking for is sort of the full-fledged Figma experience, which you're getting close to here as sort of the manual design, let's call it that way. One thing that I really see is Figma is much more mature when it comes to their components, for example, after all the years they've been around and all the features they were able to ship. That's something I would love to see, like something like variants, swapping instances, things like that, to make it like full-fledged. And I love how you have the AI incorporated to also generate with you, where Figma is not even just bad. I think it's non-existent, I would say. Figma's actual generation of UIs. Would you say, and the question is, so that's kind of the feedback. And I think the question is, in your sort of benchmarking, when you're trying to generate code from pencil designs, would you say this is better than if I try to generate code and like an actual working code, like a React app, for example, from Figma? Because I've struggled quite a bit with Figma, where even I use the MCP, Claude MCP, but then it's highly inaccurate. It still takes me many prompts to actually be able to match the design.
Yeah, so this is, by the way, don't worry about them, but it's already like here, the contrast, but this is exported code from this design, and you can see it generated essentially this code, and so this is sort of like how it looks like when you generate it from Pencil.
Yeah.
Is the so I've got a question, I think Chloe, is that right? She did have a question.
But
maybe I missed it now.
Yeah, but Reden, to your point, yes, 100%, like components, we want to make them better variants and so on. Like one of the things I wanted to show you are slots. So what you can do with slots is, let's say I've had table, so I create an instance of a table, and here I can click on table row, and now it's adding table rows, and now I can click on table cells, and now it's adding table cells, so you can basically define what belongs to what place, and it's really incredibly powerful, not only for you, but also for AI, because then AI knows how to assemble things together.
Mm-hmm.
So for instance, like when you have a card, there are slots. This is like header, content, and actions. And it knows that these are places where it can put things. So let's say I create a card here, an instance, and I want to add like a title. I can just create a title here. And I can like drop it in, and now it like drops in there, and it knows that it like, see? Cool. Yeah. So we have like different things that are maybe more advanced on other places, and so on. So we're sort of like looking at it really from first principles, like what really feels like is like the next necessity to implement, versus like somebody has like this set of features, well, we have a strong belief that like, especially to make AI work better, there is another set of features that we need to get to first. So the designs that are generated look better, they provide you more flexibility to edit, etc., etc., etc.
Amazing. Right. So we've got 1 minute left, I think, Tom, yeah? Yeah, appreciate your time. I don't think there's any more questions, so I'll just respect that time very well. Amazing. I actually really enjoyed that. I'm not a designer, but I've got a couple of clients who are definitely struggling trying to like explore design iterations fast to get as much feedback to a client, and so I'm going to try and definitely get them using it. But yeah, thank you very much. Hopefully I'm going to put the link to our community if anyone is not in the community, but I think most of you are. And hopefully I'll do this again. We have got one in 2 weeks with a guy in Barcelona called oh my God, Mike. He's built a tool. He's going to go through it as well. But appreciate everyone coming. Thank you, Tom, very much for that. I appreciate your time. And yeah, see everyone very soon. So
Yeah,
thank
cool.
you.
Very, very nice meeting you, by the way. And I'm on Discord. We have a Discord for Pencil, so feel free to DM me there.
I'll
I'm
ping it in
always
the
trying
chat.
to,
Yeah,
yeah.
if you have it. Yeah.
So yeah, oh yeah. Well, it's on the Pencil website, there's a link.
Okay.
Yeah. So just go to Pencil.Dev and there's like a big button, join Discord. And I'm happy to help, honestly. Like we're trying to get to most of the questions as soon as possible. So we're here for you to help. Yeah. Cool.
Thank you very much. See you later. Right, everyone, you're allowed to leave. I always find
Thanks,
on
Tom.
Zoom
That
calls
was
quite funny.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Have a good one. Bye.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Bye.
Stop recording.
That was great.